All right, folks. Mahalo nui for attending. My name is Natalie and I'm a librarian at Leeward Community College. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to give you an overview of the Information Literacy Exam. It's also called the ILE. I'm going to show you how to find the exam, find the open book tutorial, take it, pass it, and share your results with your instructor. So the first step is going to be at Laulima, which is no doubt very familiar to you folks. The problem here is that it's kind of hard to find the ILE site. So what you're going to do over on the right of your screen, you're going to notice it says Sites next to your name. When you click on Sites, you should have access to all of your course sites along with the LCC InfoLit English 100 tab. You may notice I click the star. When I do that, it's actually going to appear in my search bar. So that way it won't be hard to find in the future. Now, really quickly, I'm going to view this as a student so it's a little bit more familiar. All right, from the site overview page, you'll see a short 2-minute video just on the InfoLit exam and the exam, but if you're watching this, this is sort of the extended version. The other thing you're going to notice is a direct link to the online tutorial. Now, I'm going to open this and spend a few minutes going through the tutorial before we open up the exam. So this is essentially the open book for the exam. Now the exam itself is in Laulima. It's 25 multiple choice questions that you need to get 18 out of 25 correct or better to pass. The good news is it's totally untimed. You can have as many retakes as you need. And again, it's open book. So when I say open book, this is what I'm talking about. The online tutorial and the InfoLit exam is broken up into 6 parts. First, you're going to be quizzed on sources of information. That's primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. Next, you're going to learn about information types. Specifically, we're going to talk about the difference between periodicals and books. Then we'll go over some great techniques you can use to pull back information you want and get rid of information that's not related to your search, both online and using library tools. We're going to use our hot techniques to find books and articles in the library. We're going to talk about the CRAP test, which is our selection criteria for any information from websites to books to articles and more that you'll be using in English 100. And finally, part 6 of the exam and tutorial is all about citing information. In English 100, you'll be using MLA format, and so I'll give you some examples and we'll talk about that a bit. All right, let's jump in. So you may not know what a tertiary source is, but the InfoLit exam is meant to sharpen these skills and help you find the answers. So you're not meant to read this whole tutorial and know everything. So in part 1 of your exam, if you have a question that's something like a record like a works cited page that helps you find information sources, is that an example of a primary, secondary, or tertiary source? Well, when you come to the sources tab on your tutorial, you'll see that you have a definition and examples of primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. Primary sources are original documents created by folks who were actually there at the time. Some examples include diary entries, interviews, and reports with first-hand information. Secondary sources are works that analyze or assess events, information. So things like your textbook, for example, would be an example of a secondary source. And finally, sources that help you find other sources are tertiary. So these would be things like your works cited page or an item record when we go to look for books or articles in the library. So if you have questions on primary sources, be sure to look on this tab of the tutorial. Another thing that might help is if you hit Control F, you'll get a search box. So if I was looking up, what is a diary entry from 1933 considered? If I looked up diary, well, that's an example under our primary sources. Okay. Once we're pretty familiar with our primary, secondary, and tertiary sources, then it's really great to know the difference between your main information types. So information types here, we've kind of broken in half. Periodicals include things like newspapers, journals, and magazines. All of these types are circulated periodically. It could be daily, like Star Advertiser newspaper, monthly, like popular magazines, or quarterly, or even annually if it's more academic, trade, or scholarly journal. Just gonna take a second here to, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself. I'm so bad at doing these recorded things. Okay, thanks so much. Let me go back to sharing my screen. All right, so our information types. Periodicals like newspapers are really, really great because they give you current information, like late breaking news, the latest case studies and things like that. Whereas books are really long, you know, and they give you history and background and that kind of information. So that's why it's really common where your teachers will tell you, please make sure that you have 3 scholarly journal articles, 2 books or ebooks, and they want you to maybe interview someone in the field. That's because different containers have different types of information. You can't just get 8 websites that are going to give you the history and background, case studies, late breaking news, and current research. You need to go to different places to get all that information. Now, on the information literacy exam, in part 2, information, you may get a question like, who's the intended audience for a trade journal? So if you scroll down on periodicals, we have information on popular magazines, scholarly journals, and trades. And you'll see that I tend to put things in bold if it'll lead you to the answer. So a trade journal looks just like a popular magazine, but the intended audience is actually someone in a specific trade or profession. So in the example on the tutorial, Culinary Magazine is actually targeting chefs and those in the culinary world. Now, before I jump off of this is something that you folks are definitely going to learn about in English 100. Scholarly or academic journals are really awesome because not only are they expert written by teachers, lawyers, doctors, you know, experts in their field, they're actually reviewed by experts prior to publication. That is also called peer review. And so get used to hearing that, but that's going to be on your info lit exam and you're going to hear it in English 100. Now, books are the bomb. Most of human thought, you know, human beings have been writing things down for tens of thousands of years, but we've only had the internet for like 30 years. So most of human thought is actually still locked up in print sources. So don't be afraid to get to the library and look up a print book. You can still request books even when libraries are physically closed in the COVID times. You may get a question on ILE about reference books like encyclopedias. Now, I know a lot of us are familiar with Wikipedia, but the library has some really great alternatives that are much more authoritative and accurate than a Wikipedia. We have general encyclopedias like Encyclopedia Britannica or World Book. Those give you a little bit of information about many different topics A to Z. We also have subject encyclopedias, which are more narrow in their scope. They cover things like history of rock and roll or US presidents. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and we've talked about our primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. We've talked about information types, both periodicals and books. And now we're going to go to my favorite tab, which is all about search techniques. Really quickly, I'm just going to ask if you haven't, it looks like just about everyone's muted. Okay, I'm going to go back to my screen. Now, this is my favorite. This is going to be really important when we talk about finding books and articles in the library, but this stuff also works in Google. The first thing to note is that you should really be using keywords only when you're doing a search. This is because you really want to cut through the fat and get straight to what you want. So instead of searching something like, does it matter how much sleep kids need when it comes to their grades, you could just do kids, sleep, and grades, and you'll have much better results. Now, a keyword search is great because it searches the whole record of an item, so you'll get more results back. If you want fewer results that are actually more focused, well, then you would want to do a subject search. And I know keyword and subject sound very synonymous. They're similar, but they're not the same. Keyword searches will search the subject, but it will also search different areas like the title, the abstract or summary, chapters, and so on. And so you get more back when you do a keyword search, but you get more focused results if you do a subject search. If you stick around after this recording, I'll do a couple demonstrations at the end. Now, my next favorite thing, this is really my most favorite thing, are Boolean operators. Boolean operators are great if you're getting either too many results or too few, and you need to kind of tweak them very quickly and easily. So the 3 Boolean operators, which you will be tested on, are and, or, and not. And so what they do is if you have a topic and you want to narrow it down to just your main keywords, you can put the word and in between them. So in this example here, if you're searching tourism and Hawaii, it will only bring you back books or articles that have both of those topics. And it gets rid of tourism information that is not specific to Hawaii, and it gets rid of Hawaii information that is not specific to tourism, and only brings you back information that talks about both of those things. Or is the opposite, it broadens your search. This is what you're going to use for synonyms. So a really common example is when you're looking up information on kids, like I just mentioned. So if we were looking up kids and sleep and grades, and is really good. It's only going to bring us back kids and sleep and grades. But there's about 92 different ways to say kids. You can say kids or children or keiki or adolescents, and so on and so on and so on. And then any article about kids or children or adolescents or keiki will come back. You don't need all of them, it's any or. The last Boolean operator is not. This is really good because maybe you're getting back terms not in the way you intended them. So if we were looking up media representation of women, but we kept getting back social media representation in women, we could do media and representation and women, not social. And hopefully it would disseminate, not bring us back articles about Tinder, Twitter, Snapchat, Insta, and so on. All right, so primary, secondary, tertiary sources, got them. Information types, periodicals, and books. Now we have these hot techniques that we're going to use to find books and articles in the library. So the best way to find articles in the library is to look up a research database. A research database is just an online collection. It's like a container, a bin that actually holds different periodicals. In our library, we have over 140 different resources for you folks, different databases on many different topics. In the ILE, you're going to be challenged to actually search a database called EBSCOhost, Academic Search Complete, to find a specific article and then tell us what it's about. Okay, now I have a complete list here just to give you an idea. I'm going to open this up. Here's a list of all of our databases A to Z. The first one, just alphabetically, is ABI Inform. It has The Economist, The Wall Street Journal, Forbes. Academic Search Complete, which you'll be asked to search, is really awesome in English 100 because no matter what your topic is, you're going to find articles because it has periodicals like academic journals and magazines on anything from health and wellness, the environment, the economy, the military, the government, history. It's got it all. So it's a really great source. Again, if you stick around, I'll be sure to do a demonstration. Now, if you need to find a book, the best place to look is Primo. Primo is a different library tool just for searching books, and we also have some films and other resources that you can find through Primo. Now, books are kind of categorized either because they're print or electronic. Ebooks are easy. They'll have a link, a direct link for you to open. Now, if you get a call number is the sort of home address for a book. If I were in the library with you folks right now, I'd grab some off the shelf to give you an example. It's those little stickers on the spines of the book. It does tell you where to find them, but it also tells you what the book is about. So that's important to know for the info lit exam. If you were looking up a book on legalization of marijuana, and you found a book from the 90s and you wanted to find something more recent, instead of doing another search in Primo, you could just walk over to the shelf and you would find all the related titles together. It makes researching really easy. Now, the reason I'm going to give you some call number questions on your exam is because I really want you folks to feel bold and brave to walk into any library on earth and find what it is you need. So if you think of these long, scary numbers just like money, it makes it a bit easier to visualize. So it goes from left to right, and you start with your letters. So these two are both DU. Then 624 is before the decimal. So think of that as like $624, and they're both 624. So then you go behind the decimal. 0.33 is kind of like 33 cents. And 0.5 at first glance might look smaller than 33, but it's actually larger because it's like money, 50000. So it's like 50 cents. So 624.33 would come first on the shelf before 624.5. Now, don't worry if you don't remember everything I'm saying. Please come back to the tutorial and remember this hint, and no matter which numbers you get on your ILE, you'll be able to choose the right answer. Okay, so we've used our hot techniques to find books and articles in the library, but it's really important, even when you're searching reputable sources, that you always consider what it is you're choosing for English 100. We use the CRAP test. CRAP stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Now, I break it down here in the tutorial, so I won't take up a bunch of time, but just as an example, if you get a question that asks you, what does the C stand for in currency, or in the CRAP test? Why is currency important? You can see that it's important because information changes over time. It relates to when a piece of information was written, revised, or published. So it gives you some kind of tips to making sure your information's up to date. Okay, we've made it to the last part. Part 6 of your exam and tutorial is all about citing information. And we know that we have to give credit and avoid plagiarism. But the reason that you're asked in English to record so much information down in your MLA citation is to make information findable. So if you need some examples, this is how I really learn. I learn by looking at examples. So if you are citing, let's say, a book with 2 authors is your ILE question, here's an example. It's last name, comma, first name, and first name, last name. And any additional author, illustrator, editor, you'll notice that they're also first name first. It's only your initial author that's last name first. And that's because throughout your paper, when you do your parenthetical citation in parentheses, you're going to put the author's last name. And so it really has to match in your A to Z works cited page. Another one I love to point out is a chapter in a book. It looks like this. You put your chapter in quotes before the book title. Book titles are always italicized, so that's kind of an easy one to remember. But I have all the examples here for when you go to take your exam. Now, the last tab of your LibGuide is just about the exam itself. So again, you go to La Lima, you find the LCC InfoLit tab, you go to Assignments, Tests, and Surveys, and hit Begin. Once you've completed your InfoLit exam and you've gotten 18 out of 25 or more correct, you will be able to generate a certificate of completion. Let me show you how to do it. It's a little tricky. So underneath your score, you'll see the word review. Then you'll click View Certificate, and this is the certificate you're going to actually screenshot and submit to your instructor. It has your name as well as your score, so they'll be able to give you the right score. Over here in La Lima, this is where I'll almost leave you. So again, you're going to go to Sites, InfoLit English 100. Be sure to open up your tutorial so that you can go back and forth. Assignments, Tests, and Surveys. And now I've already started mine. So mine says continue, but yours would say begin. You click on that. And then this is actually all 25 of my questions here that I'm still working on. Part 1 is sources. Part 2, information types. Part 3, techniques. Part 4, find. Part 5, select, that's CRAP test. And Part 6 is cite. And then just to kind of show you what a question looks like, they're all multiple choice. You don't have to finish this all in one crack. You can always pick it up by clicking continue later. And it's not until you're done with all 25 that you hit finish, review, and then view certificate. So I'll click continue later. The last thing I'll leave you with actually is anywhere you go on the library website, including the tutorial, if you click on the word library, it'll bring you to our home page. If you need help with the InfoLit exam or later in the semester when you're doing some research, please feel free to click on assistance with research. And there's so many ways to contact a librarian. You can call us at the ref desk or chat with us anytime Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can email us with specific questions, or you can even schedule a one-on-one appointment with me, your favorite librarian, haha, or any of us, and we're happy to sit with you for 30 minutes, and we can go over InfoLit exam, maybe a specific paper, choosing a topic, or anything else. So I'll stop sharing now, and thank you very much for attending. Stick around if you have questions, or if you want to see some demonstrations. Otherwise, I'm going to stop this awesome recording, and thank you folks again for attending.